Hey YouTube, McNash. I got a very interesting PM about a week ago. I'm going to keep his name anonymous, from a Smith & Wesson insider. He wasn't an employee, but he was worked for a company that did business with Smith & Wesson, so he had access to the factory, had access to the workers on a pretty much everyday basis. So I wanted to go ahead and tell his story and share it with all you YouTubers, so you kind of have an idea of, what's been going on with Smith & Wesson over the last few years, and maybe attributing why their quality control has gone down in such a fast pace. Let me start off with his private message. He starts off, "I worked until just recently as a truck driver for a company that used a service that Smith & Wesson has for black oxidizing parts and plating operations for outside vendors. They started to offer this service years ago when they were struggling to make ends meet. The company I work for is blank, and they make fasteners, heavy industrial bolts, and some craftsman tools. I went to the S&W factory every day for years. Even though what I was bringing to them to be treated had nothing to do with making guns, I learned quite a bit from the employees that I befriended. The upper management don't give a crap about guns. They could just as easily be managing a company that makes toilet seats. To them, it's just a product. This attitude has varied over the years, depending on which corporate hotshots were in charge. Some cared more than others. I reckon that's where you get the varying degrees of QC over the years. Smith & Wesson makes a boatload of money in sales to foreign governments, particularly in South America. These military contracts do not require such a fine degree of craftsmanship as does a discerning buyer such as you or myself. Most of the people who are workers there, surprisingly, are not gun people. Even though they can buy anything at a huge discount, many do not even own a single gun." Wow. "It's just a union job to them, and they act accordingly. I'm not bashing unions here, just saying that there's much animosity between the union and the management. This will be reflected in how well the guns are made. Of course, ironically, these people make very good money. It's because of their unions fight for them. I would think I died and went to heaven if I could score a job at a gun factory and get paid well to boot, but that's just me. I didn't want to post this in an open forum because I'm laid off from blank and would like to get my old job back, although the odds of that are getting slimmer by the day. Smith & Wesson were laying people off and cutting back on production when the savior of Smith & Wesson got elected as President of the United States. Gun sales skyrocketed and QC went into the toilet. They had all kinds of issues, mainly due to the fact that they wanted to automate everything and get rid of the workers. They also got real slipshod in their record keeping, and the BATF came down hard on them. It seems that a drug raid, separate from Smith & Wesson obviously, turned up a bunch of unserial numbered Smith & Wesson guns and some that were marked incorrectly. How this happened I never found out, but just like the old Colt factory in Hartford years ago, a lot of guns went out the back door. I remember the BATF swarming the Smith & Wesson factory and storage rooms and how terrified some of the managers I knew were. Smith & Wesson paid a fine and got their hands slapped and went on. I know it happened because I was there and the agents hung around the factory for weeks. The BATF investigation occurred in 2007 through 2008. So they investigate. And then, there's an article in 2010. The BATF, our Smith & Wesson wins a contract with the BATF, which is ironic because they just were investigated in 2007, 2008. So he goes on to say, so they investigate Smith & Wesson for sloppy inventory practices and then adopt their pistol as their standard arm. Begs the question, what was going on behind closed doors? What deals were struck for them to be investigated in 2007, 2008, and then all of a sudden their pistol is adopted by the BATF in 2010. He concludes that, so if you want to know why their QC sucks, I would venture a guess that poor management reinforced by poor labor relations and intensified by endless attempts to remove the human from the manufacturing process will add up to a crappy gun. I mean, this is an issue with America as a whole, not just with Smith & Wesson. The manufacturing business has gone over to China predominantly, and we're trying to win that back. That's why we're supporting U.S. companies and buying from them, and building up our technology. But obviously, you don't want to incorporate technology too much into it, because then it makes the humans obsolete, the factory workers, the ones that handcraft certain things and put their heart and soul into it, and that doesn't help the economy either. So it's a constant battle between management and unions, and it's a constant battle between technology and the human working hand. So that's the moral of the story. I just wanted to share that with you from an insider that was at the factory every day for years, and maybe it'll shed some insight on why their QC has dwindled in the last few years. Feel free to comment.